At the hospital, I handed the nurse a sealed envelope. "Run this sample," I said quietly. The results came back with one line circled in red. The man who called me Dad for 40 years wasn't even close. My name is Leonard Mercer, but most folks call me Len. I am 72, a widower, a father, and a grandfather. I built cabinets for most of my life. My knees talk to me when the weather shifts. I still make coffee at dawn because Ruth liked the smell. I speak to her when the rooms are quiet. It steadies me. I never looked for trouble. I fixed what I could reach. I forgave what I could bear. The week this began, forgiveness felt thin, and the house did not feel safe. I had to stare at a truth I had avoided for 40 years. I did it because someone I loved pushed me against a wall I did not deserve. The nurse's badge said Carla Nguyen. She asked if I needed a chair. I said I was fine. That was not true, but it was how I knew how to be. I took the paper, thanked her, and walked to the big window that looked over the parking lot. It was raining. People ran for their cars with jackets over their heads. I sat and breathed until my hands settled on my knees. I opened the paper again. The red circle was small. My eyes felt hot. I folded the result in half, then in half again. The red still showed through the white, like a mark that would not rub out. Ruth and I had a hard summer long ago. She went away 3 weeks. When she came back, we promised each other we were done with secrets. I chose our life, and I kept choosing it. I chose Stephen every day. He said Dad and ran in wet grass and fell asleep on my chest when he had the flu. I never asked for proof. I did not want proof. I wanted family. But last night he stood in my kitchen with a smooth smile and a stack of forms. He said, "We found you a place with activities." He said, "We could do a lot with the house." He did not say please. He did not say thank you. He said, "Before something happens." I slid the result back into the envelope and tucked it inside my jacket. I felt older than I had felt in years. I did not feel clever. I felt steady and sad. It did not erase birthdays, ball games, or his first job. It did not erase the way Ruth would squeeze my hand at the school concerts. It did change how I heard his voice when he talked about my house like it was a prize on a game show. I watched the rain until the lot cleared. I told myself to be careful. Truth is a tool that can fix or break. I could lock this in a drawer and never speak of it. I could put it on the table like a weapon. I could wait and use it only if I had to. I did not know which yet. I only knew this. If I used it, the family would split. They came at noon without calling. Stephen and his wife, Kelsey. They put a folder on my kitchen table and sat like it was their table. The kettle clicked off. I poured tea. I slid cups toward them. Ruth's chair stood empty beside me. My hand rested on the worn top rail. "We found a great community," Stephen said. "Close to us." "Very modern," Kelsey smiled. We toured it. "They have a shuttle and crafts. You'll love the staff crafts." Shuttle. The folder had a photo of a man my age holding a tomato like a ribbon. I wondered if that man had a son who called him selfish. I wondered who decided what modern meant and for whom. Stephen pulled a business card from his pocket and set it down. Denise Porter, realtor. Her headshot smiled up at me with very white teeth. "She can get top dollar," he said. "The market is hot. We should list while it's high." "We?" I said. "We are family," he said, calm like a math fact. Kelsey tapped the folder. "It is practical," she said, "and safer." "The stairs are a risk." I kept my voice even. "I have my routines. I am not ready." Stephen smiled the way men smile when they think they are managing a situation. "Dad, this is not about ready. This is about what is best. You cannot keep up this place. You barely use the rooms." "It is empty." I turned the business card so the headshot faced me. I thought about the dent in the third step that I meant to sand. I saw Ruth's handwriting on the old calendar by the phone. I felt heat rise in my neck. I waited for please. I waited for let us help. I did not hear either. I will think, I said. Stephen pushed the folder closer. Do more than think. Sign here and here. We can get the ball rolling. I have a call with Denise at 2. It is just a start, Kelsey said. We can always adjust. They did not look at the photos on the wall. They did not look at the pencil marks in the doorway that tracked Stephen's height each year. Their eyes stayed on the paper in my hands. I lifted the folder and set it in the top drawer. I appreciate the effort, I said. Leave it with me. Stephen leaned back. You are making this harder than it has to be. I closed the drawer. The sound was small but final. I looked at his face. I thought about the sealed envelope inside my jacket. I thought about how easy it would be to set it on the table. I thought about how hard that would be to take back. We will come back later, Kelsey said, already standing. You can sign then. Stephen set Denise's card on top of the drawer like a claim tag. He patted my shoulder. Before something happens, he said again, soft and sure. When the door closed, I kept my palm on the drawer and listened to the quiet. The house breathed around me. I stared at the business card. They wanted care as a shape around control. What they wanted from me was not help. It was surrender. They wanted my signature and my keys tonight. I took a walk to clear my head. I cut past the post office and turned onto Maple Street. Irene Doyle waved me over from her porch. She held her tablet under her arm and looked uneasy. Len, I do not want to meddle, she said, but you should see this. She turned the screen. It was a real estate page. My porch, my flag, my red door. The word said, coming soon. The number under it was a price that made my stomach drop. Who posted this? I asked. Looked like your son, she said, or the agent. It was in the neighborhood group. I thanked her and headed home. I sat at the table and looked at Ruth's empty chair. I found the listing on my phone. There it was. My house walking around on the internet with a tag I had never given it. The room felt far away for a second. Then I put the phone down and opened a drawer. I took out the little recorder I had used when Ruth was sick to catch doctor instructions. I checked the battery and set it beside the phone. Old habits helped. They made me feel steady. 2 new voicemails waited. I pressed speaker. The first was Denise Porter, bright and quick. Just confirming our call at 2. The second was Stephen, light and sure. He'll fold, he said. We list by Friday. Just have the photographer ready. He did not say my name. He did not say please. He sounded like a man placing an order. I played it again, then saved the file. I moved it onto the small thumb drive I kept in a ceramic bowl by the stove. It was a blue plastic fish from Emma's school project. I watched the progress bar crawl. When it was done, I slid the drive under the sugar canister and laid my palm flat on the counter. My hands shook and then went still. The house felt different. Awake! I could hear the refrigerator hum and the wind tap the trees out back. I wondered when Stephen had stopped seeing this as a home and began seeing it as a number. I wondered who taught him to talk that way. Maybe I had missed 1,000 small signs. Maybe I had looked away because I loved him. I thought about calling him. I wanted to say, I heard you. I did not trust my voice. I did not want to shout. I wanted daylight and simple sentences. I wanted to look him in the eye when I said no. The phone rang at 2. I let it roll to voicemail. Denise chirped about timing and angles and afternoon sun. She spoke like I was a product. Maybe to them I was. A product, not a life. I reached for the blue fish thumb drive again. The plastic was cool. I slid it back under the sugar. I looked out at the wet street and told myself not to panic. Watch. Listen. Take the next right step. They had moved from talk to action. They believed I would not see. They thought I was blind. I did not cook that night. I drove to the edge-of-town diner and ordered meatloaf and coffee. The windows fogged with steam. The room was warm, full of small talk. I took the booth by the glass to watch the road. I needed noise that was not my own worry. Halfway through my plate, a car I knew eased into the lot. Stephen's sedan. A man stepped out from the passenger side. Gray hair, good coat, neat. He moved like someone used to being agreed with. They did not see me. They took a table near the door. Stephen talked with his hands and smiled. The gray-haired man listened, then turned to the window that faced the road toward my block. He looked a long time, like he was measuring something. They ate fast. They paid. I stayed where I was and watched through the glass. The rain started again, small beads on the window. They got in the car and pulled out slow. Stephen pointed up the street. The way to my house. He smiled like a salesman closing a deal. The older man leaned forward and looked along Stephen's finger. He nodded once, like a man who likes what he sees. I took out my phone and held it low. I snapped a photo through the wet glass. It was a messy shot, but I could see them. The angle of Stephen's arm, the direction of his finger. I put the phone down. My mouth was dry. A thought rose and sat heavy. Ruth's keepsake box in our bedroom. I had not opened it since the funeral. I remembered an old photo, seen once and put away. Ruth with a younger man, her handwriting on the back, the way she always wrote dates and names. My chest ached. I did not want to build stories without proof. I wanted facts. I left cash under the salt shaker and stepped into the rain. The car turned onto Maple. I stood there and watched the taillights slip away. I felt the sealed envelope in my inside pocket like a stone. Breathe, I told myself. Go home. Open the box. Look with both eyes. If the man at the diner had a name, I would find it. If he had a tie to us, I would find that too. No guesses, no shouting. Daylight and paper and memory would do the work. I got in my truck and started the engine. The wipers swept. The photo glowed on my phone. I looked at the road ahead and felt something settle. Stephen was not alone in this. There was another hand on the wheel. The plan was bigger than I thought. I drove home from the diner with rain ticking on the hood. I went straight to the bedroom and pulled Ruth's keepsake box from the closet shelf. I set it on the bed. My hands rested on the lid for a long moment. I did not love opening the past, but the past was awake and walking around my house, and I needed to see it plain. Inside were postcards, ticket stubs, a pressed flower that had kept its color, and photographs in neat stacks. Ruth labeled everything. I could hear her voice when I saw her tidy block letters. Thanksgiving '94. Emma's first day. I lifted a stack and found a smaller envelope inside. On the front, in Ruth's hand, it said, "Summer we got lost." I knew what that meant. The hard season. The 3 weeks she was gone and then came back quiet. I opened it. There were 3 photos. In one, Ruth stood by a lake with a man I did not know. He was young then, dark hair, serious face. His arm floated near her shoulder but did not touch. On the back, she had written, Martin. July. No year, no last name, just Martin. I sat down hard. I looked at Ruth's careful letters again. I tried to be fair. We had made our peace after that summer. We had raised Stephen together. We had worked and prayed and kept birthdays and fixed what broke. And still, there he was. A name, a face. Not a ghost now. A man I had seen eating with my son, looking out the window toward my block. I put the photos down and went to hang my jacket. Stephen's jacket from yesterday was still on the peg by the door. I stood there a second. I should not snoop. I did anyway. In the inside pocket I found a business card. Martin Keene, advisor. The phone number had a local area code. The card was heavy, expensive. My thumb made a small dent in the lower corner because I pressed it too hard. I held the card and the old photo side by side. The face had aged, but the bones were the same. The name matched the name Ruth had written 30-some years ago. I felt a small current run up my spine. I put everything back where it had been and went to the kitchen. The Bluefish thumb drive sat under the sugar canister. I touched it. I looked at the clock. My hands did not shake now. They were steady. I tried to speak to Ruth in my head the way I did at dawn. Not angry, just clear. I told her what I had seen at the diner. I told her what I had found in her box and in Stephen's pocket. I told her I would choose truth over noise, fairness over fear. I told her I would not be frightened into giving up my life. I slid the old photo into my shirt pocket. I put Martin's card in my wallet. I folded the keepsake box closed. The lid clicked shut. I stood up and looked at our room. Her sweater still hung on the back of the chair. My heart hurt in a dull, simple way. A man can forgive and still protect himself. The rain slowed outside. I went back to the kitchen and stared at the business card Stephen had left, the smiling face of Denise Porter. Then I turned my eyes to the window. Headlights moved on Maple Street. I could still see Stephen pointing. I could still see the older man nodding. The line between past and present had a name now, and it matched the handwriting on the back of the photograph. This was not a stranger. This was blood. I called Stephen the next morning and asked him to stop by alone. He came fast, like a man moving toward what he wanted. He did not sit. He kept his jacket on. I kept mine off, slow on purpose, to make the room feel like my room. "I want to know who the man was at the diner," I said. Stephen shrugged. "An advisor," he said. "Helps people with transitions. You know, moving and all that. What is his name?" I asked. "Martin," he said. His eyes held mine. "You do not need to worry about that. He is on our side." "Our?" I asked. "Who is our?" "People who care," Stephen said, easy, like he was doing me a kindness. "People who understand how hard this is for you." "I do not find it hard to know my own mind," I said. "Dad," he said kindly, "you are 72. The stairs are a hazard. The yard is work. You need a place where people check on you." "I have neighbors," I said. "I have my doctor. I have my tools." He smiled in a way I did not like. Tools do not fix age. Kelsey had taught him that tone, maybe. Or the world had. Soft voice, hard push. I looked at his hands. He had my hands when he was small. He had Ruth's eyes. Now I saw a man who did not flinch when he said things that cut. I wondered when that had started. I wondered what I had missed. "I saw you at the diner last night," I said. "You pointed toward my house." "Martin wanted to know where you lived," he said. "He likes to see the situation." "How long have you known him?" I asked. "A while," he said, casual. He reached out. "He said he knew you once." "He said he could help." "You mean you reached out?" I said. He looked at the empty chair beside me. I watched his eyes soften for half a second when he saw Ruth's sweater there. Then the softness vanished like it had not happened. He lifted his chin. "We are trying to make this easier for you," he said. "You should thank us." There it was, not care. Control dressed in nice words. The way his mouth formed "thank us" made my stomach turn. "I will not be moved like a box," I said. "I will not sign papers I have not read. I will not walk into a place I did not choose, because a man I do not know likes to see the situation." He snorted, the way boys snort before they roll their eyes. "You will," he said. "It is time." I did not raise my voice. I held his face in my eyes. "Who is Martin to you?" I asked, even though I knew the answer in my bones. I knew it from Ruth's photograph and from the way Stephen had pointed toward my block, like he was presenting a prize. Stephen's mouth twitched, just a small line that broke. "He is someone who understands me," he said. "More than you do." He stood then. He had said too much and did not care. That was the part that hurt. Not the words, the ease. "Denise will be here at 3, he said, as if my house were a calendar he could write on. "Be ready to let her take some preliminary shots." He left without waiting for an answer. The door closed with a soft click. I looked at Ruth's sweater on the chair and wished she had written more on the back of that photo. I wished she had written a sentence to tell me what to do now. I stood in the quiet and felt the old, warm love I had for the boy who needed a bandage and a story before he could sleep. Then I felt the cold, new truth about the man who had stood in my kitchen and told me to be ready. He felt untouchable. I made coffee and could not drink it. It tasted like worry. I poured it down the sink and ran water until the smell was gone. My phone buzzed. The hospital number flashed on the screen. I stared at it. I picked up. "Mr. Mercer," the voice said. "This is Carla Nguyen from the lab. I am calling to confirm yesterday's result and to let you know a sealed copy is available when you want it." "Thank you," I said. My voice sounded steady. It did not feel that way inside. I hung up and set the phone down like it might bite me. The truth was now more than a mark on a page. It had a voice. It would have a sealed envelope again. It gave me a way to push back if I needed to. It also carried a cost I could not measure yet. I went to the drawer by the stove and pulled the blue fish thumb drive from under the sugar canister. I set it next to the business card Stephen had left for Denise Porter. I put Ruth's old photograph beside them. A small row of objects. Each one told a piece of the same story. The plan was not only fast, it was confident. Stephen had a cheerleader and a realtor. He had a partner in a man named Martin Keene who used to be a name on the back of a photo. And he had no shame about any of it. I thought of Emma, my granddaughter, and the way she had laughed when she handed me this blue fish years ago. "So you cannot lose your homework, Grandpa," she had said. She would hate this. She loved her father. She also knew me, and she would see what this was. I would not drag her into it. Not yet. A thought rose so clear it surprised me. I spoke it out loud into the empty kitchen. "At the end of this, there will be justice," I said, "for the unfaithful and the unkind. I will do it without cruelty, and I will not run from the truth. If I have to be the one who breaks the silence, I will." Saying it steadied me. It was not a threat. It was a promise to myself. And I would do everything to make it come to life. You will not want to miss it. But before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The clock said 2:30. Denise would come at 3. I put the blue fish back under the sugar. I slid the photo into my pocket. I left the business card on the table where I could see it and not forget what was moving toward me. I walked through the house and touched the things that made it home. The nick in the third stair, the window latch that sticks in winter, the dining table where Ruth spilled varnish once and laughed so hard she cried. I was not saying goodbye to any of it. I told the rooms so, like a fool. I told them I would not let people who spoke in smooth voices and soft lies decide where I would die. There was a knock at the door, not a polite tap. A firm knock, like someone testing a wall. I stood still for one breath and then another. Delay gave them time, but delay also gave me sight. I opened the door. Denise Porter stood on the porch with a camera bag and a smile that did not reach her eyes. Stephen was at the curb in his sedan. The gray-haired man from the diner, Martin Keene, sat in the passenger seat. He saw me see him. He lifted his hand in a small, smug wave. "Mr. Mercer," Denise said, cheerful. "I am just going to take a few preliminary photos. No obligation. We can delete them if you decide not to move forward." "You will not be coming in," I said. Her smile did not change. "Oh, we already have permission," she said, and jerked her chin toward the street. "From your family." "I am my family," I said. Stephen got out of the car and walked up the path. Martin stayed where he was, the kind of man who watches other people do his work. Stephen's smile was smooth. He spoke to Denise as if I were not there. "Go ahead and get the living room," he said. "Light is best there now." "Stop," I said. I was not loud, but the word had weight. Denise paused. Stephen did not. "Dad, please do not make this weird," he said softly. "It will go faster if you just let us help." "Help," I repeated. The word tasted like dust. He leaned close enough that I could smell his aftershave. "Martin says this is the right time. You kept things together after Ruth died. But it is slipping now. It is time for real adults to make the call, real adults." He had decided I was a child with a mortgage. I looked past Stephen to the car. Martin met my eyes. He smiled like a man watching a farm he was about to buy. He looked at my roofline and my porch posts and my maple tree, and I saw ownership in his face. Not hope, not respect, ownership. "I know who you are," I said to him across the distance. He heard me. His smile flickered, then settled. He lifted his hand again, a small, mocking salute. Denise shifted her weight. "Should I start?" she asked Stephen, soft. My jaw tightened. A part of me wanted to step aside and let them do it, just to end the pressure. Another part, the part that had hammered nails into cold wood at dawn to pay this place off, stood up inside me. "No," I said to all of them. "Not today." "Not here," Stephen exhaled and smiled like a man indulging a child. "We will be back," he said. "You will be in a better mood." "You will not come back with a stranger," I said. "If you have something to say to me, you will say it like a son, not like a salesman." He followed my gaze to the car. He knew I knew. He did not flinch. "We are past pretending," he said. His eyes were flat and cold. "We are doing what is best for everyone." "For yourself," I said. He took a step back and put a hand on Denise's elbow. "We will reschedule," he told her. She nodded. They turned. Martin watched the whole time, quiet and sure. His window slid down as the car crawled forward. He spoke low so only I would hear. "You should let go, Len," he said, voice mild, like advice. "You had your turn." The car rolled away. I stood in the doorway and felt my heart hit hard in my chest. Once, twice. Then it slowed. The rain had stopped. The air smelled clean. I did not slam the door. I closed it. I leaned my forehead against the wood and breathed. The second hook of the week had caught. I had said it already in my kitchen, and I said it again now, plain as I could, to the man in the car, and to the man who had walked out of my house like it was a store he owned. "I will bring justice to the unfaithful in my family," I whispered again to the quiet house. "I will do it without hate. But I will do it," I straightened. I slid the chain on the door because it made me feel better. I looked at the blue fish thumb drive under the sugar canister, and the old photo in my pocket, and the line in red ink folded in my jacket. I aimed at both of them now. Not just Stephen. Both. And I felt the first small mercy of a plan take shape in the center of my chest. I did not sleep much. I boiled eggs at dawn and did not eat them. I put on Ruth's old flannel because it still held the smell of lemon oil from her desk. I drove into town when the streets were empty. I parked by the river and watched the water move, slow and stubborn. I thought about what I could lose. I thought about what I would not surrender. Then I walked to the office of a man who had drawn up our wills 20 years ago and shook my hand at Ruth's funeral. He looked older now. So did I. I put the old photo on his desk. I put Martin's card next to it. I put the blue fish thumb drive down last. I did not tell him my whole life. I told him what mattered this week. I told him I needed my home to be mine while I breathed. And then I wanted it to be used for something Ruth would love. Nothing complicated. A reading room at the elementary school. A small place with good chairs and bright lamps and a brass plate with her name. He said, "We can do that." No big words, no lecture. He said, "I want you to feel safe in your own house." I felt my lungs open a little. It felt like stepping back onto a firm floor. We talked about simple steps to stop anyone else from making moves without me. I signed in 3 places. My hand shook once. I pressed the pen harder until it stopped. He asked if I wanted copies. I said yes, but later. I did not want to walk around town carrying papers like a shield. I wanted to carry a promise. When I left, the sun had cut through the clouds. I did not feel triumphant. I felt clean. I thought about Ruth reading to little kids in a room with her name on the wall. I saw her eyes smile when she turned the last page. It steadied me. It was not revenge. It was repair. On the way home, I passed Maple Street and saw Stephen's car in my driveway. He was early. I parked by the curb and sat there for a minute, watching the way morning light hit the porch. The flag moved in a small breeze. I remembered the day Stephen learned to ride a bike. He had fallen, cried hard, then looked at me like I could fix the ground. I had picked him up, dusted off his knees, and said, "Again." He had trusted me. I stepped out and walked up the path. He was on the porch with Kelsey. He looked at my face and must have seen something different. I did not look away. "Busy morning?" he asked. "Just thinking," I said. He tried to look past me, tried to measure my mood. I did not give him anything extra. I unlocked the door and let us in. I put the kettle on as if it were any morning. My hands moved like they knew what to do. His did not. He hovered. He kept glancing at his phone. "You have an answer?" he said. "I'll have one by noon," I said. The kettle would take a minute. The house was quiet in a way that made me brave. I felt something settle inside me, heavy and right. I turned and faced my son. I thought of Ruth. I thought of Emma. I thought of the brass plate with Ruth's name. I heard my own voice in my head, echoed from last night. I called Stephen back at noon, after he had left in a huff because I would not decide on the spot. I told him to come by for one last conversation. I said those words on purpose. He arrived minutes later, not alone. Kelsey followed him in, tight-lipped. A beat later, the front door opened without a knock, and Martin Keene stepped into my house for the first time in 40 years, as if he had a right. He filled the doorway like a headline. He took his time looking at the pictures on the wall, at the pencil marks on the kitchen doorway, where we measured Stephen's height each year. He did not smile at those. He smiled at me. "Len," he said, warm as a hand on a hot stove, "it has been a long time." "It has," I said. I kept my distance. Stephen closed the door behind them and went straight to the table the way he had last time, like he lived here. "We just need to move this forward," he said. "We all want what is best." "Do we?" I said. Kelsey took out her phone and set it beside the realtor's card. She avoided my eyes. Martin brushed invisible dust off the back of a chair and sat. He looked at the window where Ruth's maple tree shaded the yard. He looked like a man finding his seat at a theater he had waited years to enter. "I will make this simple," I said. "I will hear you. Then you will hear me." Stephen laughed once. "We have already been clear," he said. "You are not safe alone. The house is a burden. Denise can list it next week." Martin touched Stephen's wrist, just a small press. He took over. "Len," he said friendly, "I know this is hard. But sometimes the kindest thing is to accept help. Help." I looked at his hands. They were neat and clean. Not a scratch. He had the same mouth from the photo. Older now, a little thinner. I saw the young man at the lake standing near Ruth. I saw her handwriting on the back. Martin. July. "How long have you been back in his life?" I asked. I did not look at Stephen when I asked. I kept my eyes on Martin. He smiled. "Long enough to see that he has been carrying a lot," he said. "He needed a father's support." I felt my jaw clench. A father's support. What did he call the decades of scraped knees and late nights and car repairs and college applications and hospital waiting rooms? Stephen cut in, eager. "Martin understands me," he said. "He gets what I want to build." "Out of what?" I asked. "And out of whom?" He did not answer. He did not have to. The answer sat at my table. I put my hand on Ruth's chair. It steadied me. "You have come into my house," I said to Martin, "and you speak to me like a guest who knows better than the host. You are not a guest. You are a stranger who once stood near my wife and then stayed away for 40 years. We make choices," he said, easy. "Yes," I said. "We do." The kettle clicked off, popping the quiet. No one moved. No one wanted tea. The air felt tight, as if the walls leaned in to listen. I thought of the blue fish thumb drive under the sugar canister. I thought of the envelope in my jacket. I thought of the old photo in my pocket. I thought of the promise I had made to myself. I would not shout. I would not dramatize. I would not beg. I would tell the truth and let it do its work. "Now," I said, "you will hear me." I took the sealed envelope from my jacket and set it on the table. I did not touch it again. I let it sit there quiet and small. It changed the whole room. Stephen stared at it as if it might jump. Kelsey folded her arms tight. Martin's smile thinned. "I took a test," I said, "not out of spite. Out of fear. I did not want to. I did." The result was clear. I opened the envelope and slid the single page halfway out. The red circle showed through the paper like a small wound. I did not push it toward anyone yet. I let them see that red from where they sat. Stephen swallowed. "What is that?" he asked, even though he knew. "The truth I avoided for 40 years, I said. "And the truth you used when it suited you." He blinked hard. "I did not." "You did?" I said. I kept my voice low. "You called a woman you barely know to list my house. You brought a man I have not seen in 4 decades to tell me what is best. You spoke to me like a problem to solve. You did it without shame." He looked at Martin then, the way boys look when they need a cue. Martin gave him one with a quick tilt of his chin. Stephen set his jaw, turned back to me, and said, "Business is business, Dad." That word landed like a slap. Dad. He draped it around business like a ribbon. "I raised you," I said. My throat burned, but my voice held. "When you were small, you were sick and hot with fever, and you slept on my chest. I talked to you about trains so you would not hear your own breathing. I taught you to use a level and a square. I watched you break your first plate and your first heart. You were my son when you wanted to be. I did not check papers to feel that. I did not need to. Until now I slid the page fully into the light. I turned it so the red circle faced him. He leaned in. His eyes moved back and forth, stuck on one line. His cheeks flushed, then went pale. He looked up fast, a flash of something like hurt, and then it hardened. He laughed once. It sounded like metal tapping on glass. "So what?" he said. "I am not your blood. I am still your responsibility. You are still my love," I said. My vision blurred and cleared. "Your choices are your responsibility." He shrugged, mean and small. "I choose to sell the house," he said. "I choose to move you somewhere safe." "You do not get to choose for me," I said. Kelsey spoke then, voice sharp. "This is petty," she said. "This is about punishing me. You never liked me." "This is not about you," I said. "This is about standing up in my own home." Martin exhaled softly, like a man who had been patient and was done. "You cannot take back a lifetime with a sheet of paper," he said. "I am not taking back anything," I said. "I am stopping you from taking what is not yours." He held my eyes. He did not blink. "You had your turn," he said again, soft. "He wants his." I felt something in me go quiet, the way a lake quiets at dusk. It was not surrender. It was the final drop of doubt leaving me. I set the page down and put both hands on the table, palm flat. The red circle looked small. It was enough. "This is not about turns," I said. "It is about character." I know who I am. Now I know who you are. I did not let the silence stretch. I picked up my phone and opened the coming soon listing Irene had shown me. I put the screen on the table beside the lab page. My porch, my flag, my red door stared back at us. I pushed the Bluefish thumb drive out from under the sugar canister and set it by the phone. Then I laid Ruth's old photo on top. Young Martin by the lake with Ruth, his arm almost touching her shoulder but not quite. Stephen looked from one thing to the next. His face twitched. He tried to look bored and could not hold it. "You recorded me," he said. "You recorded yourself," I said. "You left it on my voicemail. You said, 'He will fold. We list by Friday.'" Kelsey's mouth tightened. "Everyone talks like that," she said. "Not to their father," I said. Martin studied the photo. He touched the edge with one finger and then pulled his hand back. I watched the recognition flare in his eyes and die. He was good at that. He had practice. "Pictures from a lifetime ago do not matter," he said. "They matter to me," I said. "They matter because they tell me who was near us and who was not. They matter because they put a name to the man who is trying to take my life's work while he sits in his car and lets my son do the knocking." Stephen tried a new tactic. He sighed, made his voice gentle. "This is ugly," he said. "Let us not be ugly. Let us be practical." I stood up. My knees hurt. I did not care. "Practical is simple," I said. "No one walks through my door to photograph my rooms. No one lists my home without my say. No one tells me where I will sleep. If you try, I will use what you see on this table. I will not shout. I will not shame you in the street. But I will not be silent." Kelsey grabbed her phone. "We are leaving," she said. "Good," I said. Stephen looked at me like he wanted to throw something and remembered I was his father. He looked at Martin like he wanted approval. Martin did not look back. He watched me instead, measuring. "You think you have won," Martin said. "I think I have drawn a line," I said, "and I think you should be careful where you put your feet." The front door opened behind them. Denise Porter stood on the porch with her camera bag again, earlier eager. She saw the room, the faces, the angle of our bodies. She set the bag down on the mat and did not come in. "We are not doing photos today," I said, without looking her way. "We are not doing photos at all." She blinked, then nodded once. Her head turned toward Stephen, looking for instruction. He gave her none. Kelsey brushed past Denise and went down the steps. Stephen followed, slow, like a man backing away from a dog he had called friendly a minute ago. Martin stood and faced me. He offered his hand. I looked at it and let it hang there. He dropped it, tucked it into his coat pocket, and walked out like a man leaving a store where he had not found his size. I picked up the Bluefish and felt its little plastic grooves in my fingers. I slid it back under the sugar canister. I folded the photo and put it in my pocket. I put the page with the red circle back in its envelope. I did not shake. At the door, Stephen turned. He looked small for a second, like a boy who wanted to ask for something he knew he did not deserve. Then the look passed. He said nothing. He left. I closed the door gently. I stood with my back against it and let my chest rise and fall until the room came back into focus. The maple tree shifted in the window. The house was mine. My voice was mine. The line was drawn, and whatever came next would have to step over it in daylight. Carla called in the morning. Her voice was steady. "Mr. Mercer, your sealed confirmation is ready. If you want me to read the key line, I can." "You do not have to," I said. "I remember the circle." I drove over anyway. She handed me the envelope with both hands, the way a nurse hands a newborn. I thanked her and walked out into clear air. I did not open it in the parking lot. I did not need to be hurt twice to believe once. I called Emma and asked about dinner next week. I kept my voice light. She asked if I was all right. "Better than yesterday," I said. It was true. I looked at Ruth's sweater on the chair and spoke to her the way I did at dawn. "We are not being ugly," I said. "We are being clear." The house felt like it leaned in to listen. My hands did not shake. I put the envelope in the desk. I put the fish back under the sugar. I slid Ruth's photo into the drawer again. I stood there for one long breath. Every doubt had a lid now. When it lifted, it would be by my hand, not theirs. Inside, the phone buzzed. Denise Porter's number. I let it ring, then picked up. "Mr. Mercer, I wanted to say I won't be proceeding." I wasn't told the whole story. "You do not need to explain," I said. "You did not start this." "No," she said softer, "but I was about to help finish it." The line clicked. One fewer hand pushing me. Stephen texted a single line. "We need to talk." I wrote back, "In daylight." He replied with a meeting time and nothing else. The space between words said more than the words did. I stood at the sink, looking out at the maple, and thought about the boy he was and the man he had chosen to be. Love does not blind me now. It makes me exact. I wiped the counter, lifted the sugar canister, saw the blue fish, and set it back down like a talisman. Not to ward off evil, to remind me who I am when the door opens. I put Ruth's flannel on. It fit like a promise. I said one sentence out loud to the empty room, plain and cold. "You will not make a home out of my silence." He came alone at dusk. No Kelsey, no Martin. The sky was the color of a bruise. He stopped at the bottom step like the wood might bite. I stayed in the doorway. I did not invite him in. "Dad," he said, careful. "We went too fast." Martin pushes. I listened. "I'm sorry about that. Not enough to stop," I said. He looked past me into the hallway, trying to find the old map of us. "Split the sale," he said. "Half to you, half to me. You keep an apartment near Emma. We call it even." "Even?" I felt my mouth harden. "You do not know that word." He flinched, then let it pass. "You owe me for 40 years. "I gave you 40 years, I said. "You owe yourself a better man." His jaw worked. "I can still make this easy," he said, "or I can make it loud." "The loudest thing in this house is my no." I handed him a plain envelope. Inside was a clean print of his voicemail, the photo from the diner, and my note in blunt handwriting. "You do not speak for me. You do not step into my home with that man. You do not decide where I sleep." He looked at the papers and then at me. The part of him that knew right from wrong came to the surface like a breath. Then it sank. He folded the envelope and stuffed it into his jacket. Across the fence, Irene's light clicked on. Stephen glanced at it. He could see he was not alone with me, not in this town, not with this story. He tried one last line. "You'll regret this." "No," I said, "you will, and you are already regretting it." In the morning, I drove to the elementary school. The halls smelled like pencil shavings and soap. Rosa Alvarez met me by the office. "Len," she said, smiling with her whole face, "you sounded hopeful on the phone." "I am," I said. "I want a quiet room with lamps and shelves. I want Ruth's name on the wall. I want a chair where a kid can sit and forget the bad part of their day." Rosa walked me to an empty classroom with a window that caught the softest light. "Here," she said, "we could make something gentle." Gentle. The word made my throat ache. I nodded. Yes. We talked about paint and books and a brass plate. Not money, not forms. The shape of the thing mattered more than the spine. When we were done, Rosa hugged me like a neighbor, not a headline. "Bring a photo of Ruth," she said. "Let's start there." I went home by Maple. I parked and stood in the yard. The porch boards creaked the way they always had. The dent in the third stair waited for my sander. Inside, I opened the windows. Air moved through the rooms. The house breathed with me. I set a new rule in my chest where no one could reach it. Love stays, access ends. Justice is not a door slamming. It is the one I choose to open. How far would you go to protect the life you built without becoming the kind of man you cannot respect? Do you believe I did everything right? Was it revenge or justice? Please share your thoughts in the comments.
My grandpa's words really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales stories like this, hit subscribe.